Some people think prison is just about locked doors and long days. But for millions of inmates, survival depends on one thing they can't refuse. Work. Every morning before the sun feels warm, a routine begins that decides who eats better, who stays busy, and who falls behind. This is not about punishment alone. This is about a system where working is the difference between coping and breaking down. The routine nobody sees. The day starts the same way for almost everyone inside. Not with choice and not with comfort. Lights turn on early, sometimes before the body is ready to wake up. The sound is sharp, flat, and impossible to ignore. It does not ask if you slept well. It tells you the day has already begun. Inmates learn quickly that time moves differently here. Minutes feel long but days move fast. The only way to keep control of the mind is to give the day a shape. That shape is work. Work inside prison is not optional in the way people outside think. On paper, some jobs are listed as assignments. In reality, refusing to work often comes with consequences that make life harder. Less access to small comforts, less movement, less trust from the system that already trusts very little. Most inmates are not working to build careers. They are working to survive the routine. Work gives structure to a place designed to take structure away. Jobs inside prison are simple, repetitive, and necessary. Kitchen duty starts early. Laundry rooms run all day. Cleaning crews move through halls that never truly stay clean. Maintenance teams fix what breaks again tomorrow. The pay is low. Sometimes just cents per hour. Not enough to save. Not enough to dream with. But enough to matter. That small pay can buy soap that does not dry out the skin. Extra food when hunger hits late at night. Paper and stamps to write home. A phone call that reminds someone they still exist beyond these walls. Without work, those things become harder to reach. And when life already feels small, losing small things feels big. New inmates often arrive thinking they will refuse to work. They imagine standing firm, keeping their pride. That idea usually fades after the first few weeks. Not because the system threatens them loudly, but because it wears them down quietly. Idle time inside prison is heavy. Thoughts echo longer. Regrets grow louder. Anger has more room to stretch. Work fills that space. Not with joy but with purpose. A kitchen worker learns how to move fast without rushing. How to avoid mistakes because mistakes slow everyone down. A cleaner learns which corners are checked and which ones are not. A laundry worker learns patience as clothes spin the same way every day. These jobs teach lessons without speeches. Show up on time or someone notices. Finish the task or it comes back bigger tomorrow. Help the person next to you or the whole room feels colder. There is no applause for doing the job well. But there is relief. Relief that the day passed with fewer problems. Relief that the body is tired enough to sleep. Work also creates quiet lines between people. Not friendships in the way outside life understands them. More like agreements. I do my part. You do yours. We get through today. For many inmates, work becomes the safest part of the day. Not because it is easy, but because it is predictable. Predictability is rare inside prison. Rules change. Schedules shift. People come and go without warning. But the job stays. Same room. Same task. Same rhythm. That rhythm matters more than it seems. Mental health inside prison is a daily challenge. Many inmates carry stress they never learned how to name. Worry about family. Fear of release. Shame about the past. Uncertainty about the future. Work does not fix these problems. But it quiets them for a few hours. It gives the mind something to hold on to. Some inmates say work helps them remember how to be human. Not in a dramatic way. In small ways. Waking up for a reason. Being counted on. Finishing something and seeing it done. These things sound ordinary. Inside prison they are rare. The system knows this. That is why work is built into survival. Not just to keep the prison running but to keep order without force. A busy population is easier to manage. A tired body asks fewer questions. A focused mind causes fewer problems. From the outside it can look like free labor. From the inside it feels like a trade. Time and effort exchanged for stability. Not everyone benefits the same way. Some jobs are better than others. Some inmates get assignments that offer learning. Others repeat the same task for years without growth. The gap creates quiet tension. Who gets which job is not always clear. Good behavior helps. Connections help more. Timing helps most. Still, even the worst job beats no job at all. Without work, days blur together. Meals become the only markers of time. Sleep comes late. Waking feels pointless. Inmates who do not work often struggle more with discipline. Not because they are worse people, but because boredom feeds frustration. Work gives the system leverage. And inmates know it. That knowledge shapes behavior. It teaches cause and effect in a place where control feels limited. Do the job. Keep your spot. Lose the job. Lose more than pay. This is how routine becomes power. Yet within this system, something unexpected happens. Some inmates begin to take pride in their work. Not the kind that shows. The quiet kind. Pride in keeping a space clean. In feeding hundreds without chaos. In fixing something others rely on. This pride is fragile. It does not erase mistakes. It does not rewrite the past. But it builds a bridge to the future. For inmates with long sentences, work becomes a way to measure time without losing hope. For those with short sentences, it becomes practice for life outside. Showing up. Following rules. Managing frustration. Working with people you did not choose. These lessons are not taught in classrooms here. They are learned through repetition. Every shift ends the same way. Tools returned. Counts taken. Doors locked again. The body is tired. The mind is quieter. And for a moment, the day feels complete. But beneath the routine, questions grow. Is this work preparing inmates for life after release, or just helping them endure time inside? Does routine rebuild people or simply contain them? And what happens when the routine becomes the only thing holding someone together? As the days stack up, the forced routine begins to shape identities. Some lean into it. Some resist quietly. Some depend on it more than they want to admit. Because once work becomes survival, stopping is no longer simple. And that is where the real tension begins. When work becomes identity. Over time, the routine stops feeling temporary. What once felt like something to get through slowly becomes something people rely on. Days without work start to feel empty, even uncomfortable. Inside prison, identity is fragile. Most titles are taken away the moment someone arrives. Job titles, social roles, personal achievements. They fade fast. Work replaces them. Someone is no longer just an inmate. They become a kitchen worker, a cleaner, a clerk, a grounds worker. Small labels but powerful ones. These labels change how people are treated. Staff remembers names tied to tasks. Other inmates know who controls access to certain spaces. Trust begins to form, not from words but from consistency. Doing the job well brings small freedoms. Not real freedom but breathing room. A nod instead of suspicion. A calmer interaction instead of tension. Less attention when walking the halls. For many inmates this feels like progress. But identity built on routine has a cost. When a job becomes the only place where someone feels useful, losing it feels like losing the ground under their feet. A single mistake, a rule change, a shift in staffing, and suddenly the role is gone. This is when work reveals its second side. It gives structure, but it also creates dependence. Some inmates begin to measure their worth by productivity. How fast they work, how little trouble they cause, how replaceable they are. They wake up not asking who they are but what they need to do. At first, this feels responsible. Later, it feels limiting. The system does not encourage reflection. It rewards compliance. Follow the routine. Repeat the task. Stay in line. Over months and years, creativity fades. Decision-making narrows. Choices become smaller and safer. This is not because inmates lack ability. It is because the environment trains the mind to avoid risk. Risk brings attention. Attention brings consequences. So people learn to stay inside invisible lines. Work assignments reinforce this lesson every day. There is a right way to do things even when that way makes little sense. There is a chain of command even when it slows everything down. There are rules that cannot be questioned, only followed. Outside prison, these habits can be useful. Inside prison, they are survival. But not all inmates experience work the same way. Some see it as training. They pay attention. They learn skills even when the job itself is basic. They learn how to manage time, how to deal with difficult personalities, how to stay calm when pressure builds. Others shut down emotionally. They move through shifts on autopilot, hands working, mind elsewhere. Both responses are understandable. Work is constant. Reflection is risky. The longer someone stays inside, the more routine settles into the body. The walk becomes steady. The voice quieter. The reaction slower. This calm is often mistaken for growth. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is simply adaptation. The system values adaptation. From the institution's view, work keeps order. Meals get served. Spaces stay usable. Tension stays lower. From the inmate's view, work becomes a negotiation with time. If I work, the day moves. If the day moves, the sentence moves. That logic becomes comforting. But comfort inside prison can be dangerous. Because the outside world does not run on forced routine. Inside, every day is planned. Outside, choices return all at once. Inside, expectations are clear. Outside, they are often unspoken. Some inmates begin to fear release more than confinement. Not openly. Not dramatically. Quietly. They wonder who they will be without the routine. Without the job that gave them shape. Without the system that told them when to wake, when to eat, when to sleep. Work inside prison rarely includes decision-making. Tasks are assigned. Methods are fixed. Success is defined narrowly. This protects people from failure. It also protects them from growth. Still, many cling to their jobs because the alternative is worse. Idle time invites reflection. Reflection invites regret. Work keeps the mind busy enough to avoid painful questions. But those questions wait patiently. In some prisons, work programs try to bridge the gap. They add basic training, certifications, simple responsibilities. These programs help, but they are limited. Not everyone gets access. Not every skill transfers outside. A person who keeps a facility clean may still struggle to explain that work to an employer. A person who cooks for hundreds may never touch a professional kitchen after release. The system does not promise opportunity. It promises order. And order has a price. As inmates settle deeper into routine, they start to notice the quiet trade happening every day. Stability in exchange for independence. Predictability in exchange for choice. Some accept it fully. Some resist internally. Most float somewhere in between. They work because they must. They adapt because it helps. They survive because the routine allows it. But survival is not the same as preparation. As release dates move closer, the routine begins to feel heavier. What once felt helpful starts to feel restrictive. The same structure that protected the mind now limits it. The question shifts. Not, how do I get through today? But, who am I when this ends? And that question grows louder with every completed shift. Because the routine that keeps inmates stable inside may be the very thing they must unlearn to survive outside. And that transition is where many struggle the most. Preparing for a world without the routine. As release gets closer, the routine begins to change shape. Not on paper. Not in the schedule. But in the mind. Work still starts early. Tasks still repeat. Pace stays the same. But now, every action carries a quiet question. Will this help me outside? For years, survival meant following instructions. Now survival will mean making choices. That shift is harder than most people expect. Inside prison, mistakes are contained. Rules are clear. Consequences are predictable. Outside, mistakes cost time, money, trust, and sometimes freedom. Many inmates realize too late that work inside did not train them to choose. It trained them to comply. This does not make them weak. It makes them adapted to the environment they were in. The problem is that adaptation does not always transfer. Some inmates begin to notice this gap while they are still inside. They watch others leave and come back. They listen to stories told quietly during work shifts. Stories about freedom feeling overwhelming. About simple decisions becoming stressful. About days without structure turning chaotic. These stories linger. Work continues but attention shifts. The hands still move but the mind starts looking ahead. What time will I wake up when no one tells me to? How will I manage money when I have never had enough to manage? How do I explain years of prison work to someone who sees it as nothing? These questions do not have easy answers. Some prisons offer reentry programs tied to work assignments. They teach basic budgeting, resume writing, simple planning. These programs help, but they cannot replace experience. They also cannot reach everyone. Most inmates learn about the outside world through memory, and memory is often outdated. Technology has changed. Workplaces have changed. Social expectations have changed. Inside prison, work feels stable. Outside, work feels competitive. Inside, showing up is enough. Outside, standing out matters. This contrast creates anxiety. Some inmates respond by working harder inside, hoping effort will carry over. Others detach, sensing the routine will soon end anyway. Neither approach fully prepares them. Work inside prison rarely teaches flexibility. Tasks stay the same. Rules rarely bend. Outside, flexibility is essential. Schedules change. Expectations shift. Problems require solutions, not compliance. This is where many struggle. They are used to being told what success looks like. Outside, they must define it themselves. During the final months, work can feel like walking in two worlds at once. Physically inside. Mentally halfway out. Every shift becomes a reminder of what will soon disappear. The predictability. The clear boundaries. The forced focus. Some inmates begin to fear losing the routine more than they fear freedom. Not because they love prison, but because they know how to survive there. Survival outside feels uncertain. This fear is rarely spoken aloud. It shows up in behavior. Missing work, withdrawing from others, overthinking small tasks. Staff may see this as lack of motivation. In reality, it is often the opposite. The mind is trying to prepare without tools. Work assignments continue until the end. There is no slow fade. One day the job exists. The next day the gate opens. No transition period. No gradual release from routine. The system is built for containment, not adjustment. Some inmates try to create their own structure before release. They set personal goals. They rehearse daily plans. They imagine schedules. This helps, but imagination cannot replace reality. Others avoid thinking about release altogether. They focus on finishing shifts, counting days, keeping emotions steady. Both paths carry risk. Work inside prison has taught discipline. But discipline without direction can drift. The outside world demands initiative. And initiative is not learned through repetition alone. As the final weeks approach, the routine tightens emotionally. Every familiar task feels temporary. Every habit feels fragile. The job that once gave stability now highlights its limits. Because soon there will be no assigned work. No guaranteed role. No system forcing structure. Only choices. And choice is the one skill prison work rarely trains. Yet, within this challenge, something else begins to surface. A quiet realization. Work did not just pass time. It revealed patterns. Who shows up even when tired. Who adapts quietly. Who helps others without reward. These traits matter outside too. The problem is not that prison work teaches nothing. It is that its lessons are incomplete. As release day approaches, inmates stand at a mental crossroads. Carry the routine forward and risk rigidity. Or let it go and risk chaos. Finding the balance is difficult. And the system offers little guidance. The final shifts feel heavier. Not physically. Emotionally. Because when the routine ends, responsibility begins. And responsibility, unlike prison work, cannot be assigned. It must be chosen. That choice waits just beyond the gate. When the routine ends, release day does not feel dramatic. There is no countdown clock on the wall. No slow build of music or emotion. It feels ordinary. And that is what makes it heavy. The routine breaks suddenly. One last count. One last door. One last walk through a familiar hallway. Then it stops. Outside there is space. Too much space. The body still wakes early even when it does not need to. The mind waits for instructions that never come. The quiet feels different here. Less controlled. Less safe. Inside prison, work decided the day. Outside, the day waits to be decided. For many, this is the hardest part. The skills learned inside do not disappear. The discipline remains. The habit of showing up still exists. But there is no one assigning the task. Some people try to recreate the prison routine. They wake early. They plan simple schedules. They keep themselves busy on purpose. This helps at first. Structure calms the nervous system. It reduces uncertainty. It creates momentum. But the outside world does not reward routine alone. Applications must be filled out. Interviews must be navigated. Rejection must be handled without supervision. Inside prison, failure came with rules. Outside, failure comes with silence. No one explains why a job did not call back. No one outlines what went wrong. The routine cannot solve that. Work on the outside feels different. It requires self-advocacy, confidence, storytelling. Things prison work never asked for. Many returning citizens struggle to explain their past work. They describe tasks, not impact. They list duties, not growth. This creates distance. Employers hear gaps. They see labels. They move on quickly. Each rejection chips away at motivation. The routine that once protected the mind now has no place to land. Some people respond by working harder, applying more, trying again. Others freeze. Without a system forcing movement, stillness becomes tempting. Days stretch. Hours drift. This is where risk quietly grows. Not through bad choices but through lack of direction. Work inside prison taught people how to function within limits. It did not teach them how to navigate uncertainty. Yet uncertainty defines freedom. Some find support through programs, mentors, or family. Others face the transition alone. Those with support learn to translate prison discipline into real-world habits. Punctuality becomes reliability. Repetition becomes consistency. Compliance becomes cooperation. This translation takes time. Without guidance, frustration builds. People begin to question the value of the routine they depended on for years. Was it preparation or just containment? The answer is not simple. For some, prison work planted seeds. For others, it delayed growth. What matters now is how those lessons are used. Slowly, some learn to adjust the routine instead of replacing it. They keep structure but allow flexibility. They set goals but accept setbacks. This balance is difficult. Too much structure feels like prison. Too little feels like chaos. The line between them is thin. The emotional weight of release is rarely discussed. Freedom carries pressure. Expectations feel heavy. People expect gratitude, improvement, success. But adjustment does not follow a straight line. The routine ended, but its shadow remains. Every decision feels louder. Every mistake feels personal. Work outside demands identity, not just effort. And identity takes time to rebuild. Some return to familiar habits because they feel known. Not because they want to fail, but because the unknown feels overwhelming. This is not weakness. It is the cost of long-term routine without transition. The system opens the gate. It does not walk people through the world beyond it. As days turn into weeks, the difference between those who stabilize and those who struggle becomes clearer. Not in motivation. In support. The routine alone is not enough anymore. What once ensured survival now needs to evolve into something else. A self-directed life. And that shift requires skills no prison job can fully provide. The question now is not whether inmates can work. They have proven they can. The question is whether the forced routine prepared them for freedom, or simply delayed the moment they would have to learn it. And that answer depends on what happens next.